In the haunting glow of the moon, under the melancholy serenade of a distant tune, I find myself chronicling my surreal existence, an existence that is knitted with the threads of the abnormal, the grotesque, the incomprehensible. In a land devoid of life's normal rhythms, I am the lone guardian of a facility that houses creatures that should not be. Yes, I am the custodian of a zoo, but not one that is familiar to the masses. There are no majestic lions or graceful giraffes gracing the terrain. This is a place of shadows, a repository of monsters that haunt the deepest recesses of one's nightmares. Once, a different life unfolded before me, one which resided in the tangible, familiar reality. But that life vanished in the twisted metal and flames of a solitary car accident about half a dozen years ago. Officially erased from the realm of the living, my existence transitioned into the clandestine service of a government branch so secretive it barely whispers its name even in the hushed corridors of power. Now I dwell in an underground fortress, camouflaged by the desolate beauty of the Mojave Desert, a place conceived by an entity that vanished even before its inception, now managed by an organization that fights the darkness lurking in the corners of our reality. It began amidst the turmoil of the Second World War, with tales of soldiers succumbing to entities that defied explanation. The harrowing stories birthed a necessity, a special force forged to combat these inexplicable horrors. A first mission, filled with bravado and firepower, ventured into a German forest, only to be swallowed by the darkness, leaving no traces behind. But the seed had been planted, and from the soil of fear and determination, the Federal Department of Nothing emerged, a phoenix vowing to shield humanity from the unnatural. My daily reality involves navigating through a labyrinthine facility accessible only through a seemingly innocuous shed, concealing a gateway to this dark wonderland. Each day, I descend the ladder, the guardian of over 1,000 cells, housing entities that defy both description and understanding. A sanctuary turned prison, fortified with barriers ranging from mere glass to impenetrable titanium, designed to contain beings that stretch the boundaries of human comprehension. While solitude is a stern mistress, the facility offers some semblance of comfort and distraction. A sanctuary within the sanctuary, providing refuge and leisure amidst the cacophony of monstrous residents. It's a peculiar cocoon of normalcy, equipped with a bountiful kitchen and a recreation room offering a slice of mundane joys in the form of pinball machines and video games, a small reminder of a world that once was. But my duty calls persistently, demanding vigilance and readiness. The prisoners, housed in corridors categorized by the potential threat they pose, require constant scrutiny. The first corridor houses the benign, creatures more mischievous than malevolent. A step further, the second corridor harbors entities that possess a tangible threat, demanding caution and a pistol at my side. Yet, it is the third corridor where the air thickens with palpable dread, where beings of malevolent intent and formidable power reside, urging me to adorn an armor of ballistic strength, coupled with firepower capable of holding back the darkness, if only momentarily. In this land of unnatural beasts and spectral entities, I stand as the guardian, the keeper of nightmares, a lone sentinel in a world where reality meets the abyss. Here, in the eerie silence punctuated by distant melancholic melodies, I continue my vigil, a beacon of light in a world consumed by shadows. As my tale unfurls further into the abyss of the eerie and inexplicable, let us delve deeper into the sector that even brave men fear to tread. Corridor number 4. A place where doom and despair linger in the cold air, where entities exist that could extinguish my life with a mere flick of their horrific appendages, or a glance from eyes that burn with a malevolence older than time itself. No armament or shield dares venture in there, for in that dread-filled corridor they are but feeble attempts at safeguarding one's life. In this solitary confinement amidst the desert's barren embrace, I find a peculiar sort of companionship with these creatures that are stitched from the fabrics of nightmares and folklore. I indulge in whispered conversations with beings that have wandered into our world from realms unknown, corridors of reality that mankind dares not traverse. Oh, but they are fascinating subjects, each with a tale that weaves itself into the tapestry of the macabre and mystifying that is my daily existence. Their arrival into my desolate kingdom is often heralded by the drone of an unmanned cargo helicopter, an airborne chariot ferrying the latest additions to my grotesque menagerie. Like a modern-day Karen, I guide these monstrous souls to their designated realms, navigating the intricate web of corridors with a forklift as my ferry. The process, albeit bereft of grandiosity, is one of clockwork precision, a dance of steel and electromagnetism, as I fit each holding cage into its designated slot, a sanctuary designed to hold the darkness at bay. One might imagine a grand ceremony accompanying the unveiling of these beings, a crescendo of orchestral music perhaps, as the doors swing open to reveal the monstrosities within. But alas, reality is often less dramatic. A mere press of a button, an understated gesture that unveils the horror within, releasing them into their new abode. Each initiation, though it garners an additional $50,000 to my already hefty annual compensation, brings with it a frisson of danger, a dance with death as I come face to face with entities like the Wendigo, a creature both fascinating and terrifying. But let us talk about the denizens of Corridor Number 4, a place that houses beings that challenge the boundaries of human comprehension. The most horrifying among them is perhaps the Skinwalker, a shape-shifting entity birthed from the darkest corners of Native American folklore. Its first appearance was marked by a massacre, a blood-curdling event where it revealed its propensity for violence and death. Now it resides here, often masquerading as a benign old man, a disguise that barely hides the malevolent force that lies beneath. At times it transforms into a creature of nightmares, a wolf-like entity with a snout that defies the laws of physics and eyes that burn with an unholy fire. Its ability to communicate, to utter words that send chills down my spine, is perhaps its most terrifying attribute. Conversations with this entity are forbidden, a rule I adhere to with religious fervor, for I fear the secrets it might unveil, the darkness it might unleash upon my soul. But Corridor Number 4 is not the sole residence of horror in this facility. From the remnants of a German forest comes a werewolf, a being of legend, a creature that once roamed free until it fell prey to the weapons of mankind. Its transfer here marked the beginning of my peculiar zoo, a monstrous entity that now finds itself confined, yet still bearing the potential for violence and mayhem. Its growing restlessness, marked by claw marks that scar the metallic barriers of its cell, serve as a constant reminder of the darkness that resides within. And yet, amidst the horror and darkness, there exists a flicker of tragedy and sadness. Corridor Number 1, the place where the less malevolent beings reside, once housed a squonk, a creature of sorrow and tears. Its existence was one of perpetual melancholy, a life marked by an outer appearance that mirrored its tormented soul. Its demise, a puddle of tears that marked the end of its sorrow-filled existence, served as a tragic reminder of the diverse range of entities that inhabit this place. Another peculiar resident is the hoop snake, a creature that, despite its lethal tendencies, offers a bizarre spectacle, a serpent that traverses its surroundings with the agility and speed of a rolling hula hoop. Thus, in this labyrinthine facility that straddles the line between reality and the surreal, I find myself the lone guardian, the keeper of beings that defy explanation, a custodian of darkness in a world that desperately clings to the light. In this current chapter of my ungodly symposium with the abyss, it seems the dark premonitions which have haunted my slumbers are beginning to unfold in real time, a grotesque ballet of despair and terror. The very fabric of my reality is slowly unraveling as the monstrous entities I've been a reluctant custodian of seem to have set in motion a series of events that threaten to plunge my existence into chaos. As I pen down these thoughts, teetering on the precipice of darkness, the recent events continue to haunt me. The venom of the hoop snake, a menace lurking in the corners of the facility, is said to be even more lethal than I could have possibly imagined. A venomous kiss that could usher one into the clutches of death, even before one manages to dial emergency services. And yet, amidst this escalating dread, my duty beckons with the morbid allure of a fresh delivery that promises to bring yet another enigma into the folds of this desolate place. My heart harbors a perverse hope for a creature that sends shivers down the spine, a being that whispers tales of darkness and terror. But alas, the unfolding narrative takes a dark and unexpected turn. The delivery unveiled a fresh terror, another skinwalker, younger and seemingly more volatile than its predecessor, Skinny. In a horrifying turn of events, the creature managed to disappear, leaving behind nothing but an echoing silence and the foreboding sense of a storm brewing on the horizon. The facility, once a fortress of containment, now echoes with roars of unleashed fury, an unsettling symphony of impending doom. The protective barriers seem to be faltering, the claw marks on the walls a testament to the growing unrest among the captives, especially the werewolf, who now seems closer to freedom with each passing moment. Despite reporting these ominous signs to my superiors, their dismissive stance left me battling an ever-growing sense of dread, as the living quarters became my reluctant sanctuary. Locked within these walls, I could feel the noose of darkness tightening around me, the vulnerability of my situation growing more palpable with each passing heartbeat. The control rooms, with their exposed wiring and the life veins that supply power to the electromagnets holding the entities at bay, now stood as potential vulnerabilities, a ticking time bomb waiting to unleash havoc. As I found myself ensnared in this web of uncertainty and fear, the nights brought with them visions of a horrifying reality, a breach in the delicate fabric separating us from them. I found myself face to face with a creature that bore the semblance of a lion, yet its visage bore signs of unnatural manipulation, a grotesque canvas of distorted features and human eyes filled with an intent so murderous, it seemed to seep into my very soul. Even as I contemplated reaching for my firearm, the entity moved with a speed that defied its massive form, holding me in a terrifying grip, a communion of darkness where time seemed to stand still. It became clear that this entity, this abomination of nature, had no intention of ending my life, not yet. It held me in a gaze that felt like an eternity, a silent communication that screamed warnings and threats of what lay ahead. I was left paralyzed, trapped in a living nightmare that showed no signs of abating. With the containment team due to arrive, a looming sense of doom hung heavily in the air, a palpable fear that these beings, especially the escaped skinwalker, harbored the potential to unleash an even greater darkness upon us. As the events continued to spiral into chaos, communication lines were severed, leaving me isolated in my living quarters, grappling with the growing fear and uncertainty. Every fiber of my being screamed to take action, to somehow stem the tide of darkness that threatened to engulf us all. Yet, deep within, a voice whispered the futility of resistance, urging me to remain still, to wait for the inevitable climax of this horrific tale. And then, the echoes of gunfire and explosions shattered the uneasy silence, a symphony of death and destruction that heralded the arrival of the containment team. Despite their firepower and determination, the team found themselves faced with a force that defied all logic, a darkness that swallowed them whole, leaving nothing but echoes of their desperate battle. As I armed myself, donning ballistic equipment and gripping my machine gun, the gravity of the situation became all too clear. The weapons that once promised protection now seemed woefully inadequate against the monstrosities that roamed the halls of the facility. With the containment team decimated and the entryway lying in ruins, a result of their futile attempt to regain control, I find myself on the brink of madness, praying for mercy from an entity whose intentions remain as mysterious as they are terrifying. The facility, once a fortress of containment, now resonates with sounds of grotesque movements and eerie groans, a cacophony of darkness that heralds an era of unimaginable horror. As I pen down these words, with fear gnawing at my very soul, I can only hope that this entity, this agent of chaos, decides to spare me, to leave me be as it pursues its unknown agenda. With each passing moment, the terrifying sounds grow louder, an unsettling reminder of the darkness that now roams freely, a darkness that promises to engulf us all in its terrifying embrace. I wait, with bated breath, for the next chapter in this tale of horror, a tale that threatens to plunge us all into an abyss from which there may be no return. At this juncture, trapped in a spiraling descent into the horrific and the surreal, I sense an uncanny compulsion taking hold of me, steering my actions towards an outcome I dread to consider. The two skinwalkers that held our facility in a vice grip of terror and despair seemed to be orchestrating a grand, terrible symphony of destruction, and I could feel myself being reluctantly drawn into their malevolent dance. In an unexpected twist of fate, it became apparent that the youthful skinwalker's capture was a calculated maneuver, a cog in a meticulously crafted plot to escape the confines of our facility. Using arcane means that defied logic and reason, it ensnared me into its macabre plan, driving me to inadvertently aid in their dark endeavor. As I navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the facility, a gnawing realization settled in that the sinister magic that brought it into our grasp was now manipulating me into playing a role in a twisted performance. My own actions seemed to betray me as I found myself face to face with Skinny, the elder skinwalker, a terrifying entity that exuded a menacing aura, a being whose single uttered word reverberated with an eerie, unnatural quality that seemed to crawl under my skin, leaving a trail of dread in its wake. The word, a command that seemed to echo through the very foundations of the facility, set in motion a horrifying cascade of events. Before I could fully articulate a warning or a plan, the younger entity dashed with frightening speed towards the control room, wielding its vicious claws to sever the life veins of the facility with an alarming efficiency. As the cables succumbed to its violent assault, I could feel the very essence of containment crumbling, giving way to chaos and darkness. What ensued was a grotesque tableau of violence and madness, as the entities we held captive turned upon each other in a frenzied bloodbath, their primal instincts unleashed in a cacophony of roars, growls, and shrieks. The air became thick with the scent of blood and death, a maelstrom of violence that seemed to consume all that lay in its path. The grotesque realities behind the myths became clear, as I witnessed the true form of the chupacabra, a nightmarish creature, a far cry from the depictions in folklore. With its spider-like limbs and predatory agility, it engaged in a fierce battle with the werewolf, a confrontation that echoed with primal fury and rage. But as the battle reached its fevered pitch, a sudden, eerie calm descended, a silence that belied the carnage that unfolded before me. In the midst of this chilling silence, the skinwalkers emerged, their forms adorned with the fresh spoils of their vicious hunt, their eyes burning with a dark, malicious intelligence. As the heavy doors gave way under their monstrous strength, I witnessed a new player enter this theater of horror, a wolf entity, a creature whose very presence seemed to resonate with an ancient and terrible power. The ensuing moments were a blur of pain and terror, as I found myself propelled through the air, a helpless pawn in their dark game. The impact against the cold, unforgiving wall left me battered and broken, my very being screaming in agony. As I struggled to draw breath, the piercing gaze of the skinwalkers held me captive, their eyes reflecting an emotion so alien, so incomprehensible, that it threatened to engulf my very sanity. With heavy, uneven steps, they made their way to freedom, their forms disappearing into the darkness, leaving behind a scene of devastation and death. As I lay amidst the wreckage, a cocktail of fear, relief, and overwhelming pain surged within me, giving way to a violent, nauseating release. Stripping away the remnants of my protective gear, I staggered towards the office, each step a testament to the human will to survive. My body screamed in protest, a symphony of broken ribs and a throbbing concussion, painting a vivid portrait of the ordeal I had just witnessed. In the eerie silence that followed, with communication lines severed and no means to warn the outside world of the impending doom, I found myself relegated to the role of a helpless observer, awaiting the inevitable discovery of the first team's fate. As I powered on the television, a grim realization settled in. The world remained blissfully unaware of the darkness that now lurked amongst them, entities with a bloodlust that threatened to plunge the world into chaos and despair. In this bleak moment, I find myself grappling with the weight of my actions, the horrifying implications of my role in this dark saga. With a heavy heart and trembling hands, I pen down these words, a grim testimony to the unspeakable horrors that unfolded in the bowels of our facility, a dire warning to a world on the cusp of encountering nightmares made flesh. With bated breath, I wait for the world to wake up to the dark reality that now shadows us, a reality where monsters walk amongst us, fueled by an insatiable desire for blood and darkness.